If you've ever put your home up for sale, you know there are several things you should consider to prepare. Lynn, what do you think most people don't realize when they're getting ready to list their property?
I think the number one thing most people don't realize is as soon as they buy a home, they need to be thinking about the day that they're going to sell the home. So the problem I see is that many people buy the home and they just keep it in good working order with the mechanicals in great operation and the roof, you know, things like that. But they forget about the aesthetics of the house, and that is just as important.
So you're saying someone should be consciously working on the aesthetics of their home?
They need,
Carpeting,
yes.
light fixtures,
Yes,
paint.
absolutely. And that's why so many homes you'll see will sit on the market a long time and not sell because they haven't done that. So they need to think about it all the time. Keep things up to date. Like if you have a home that maybe you bought in the 80s, but you haven't changed out the carpet, you haven't changed light fixtures. Styles change just like clothing styles change. We don't wear the same clothes we wore in the 70s or the 80s, you know. What people don't realize is the home loses value if you don't keep those items up to date as well. It's actually losing value. Also, if you do them as you live in the home, you get to enjoy them all those years. But most people wait, and then they also have to spend all this money, you know, to update everything, and then they're going to go and sell it.
So oftentimes I think people have a misconception that someone's going to come in and change the colors, change the carpeting, so they put no importance in those items. You're saying that is important.
Yes, every time I bring this up, almost every time that I bring this up to somebody that has not kept things up to date, they say, well, why would I do it? Because the buyer's going to want to choose their own, you know, make their own selections. So why would I do that? Then they're just going to rip it all out. Well, that's not the point. The point is that the buyers today are so busy with their lives and their jobs, they don't want to go through the trouble of having to update the house. Just like you, the seller, you don't want to go through the aggravation. Well, they don't either. So most buyers are going to move on to another house that is really dialed in, and that means down to the details. First impressions, like when you go to the front door and the doorbell maybe is broken, and
So keeping in mind the exterior along with the interior.
And details. The front door handle maybe is all pitted. You know, you can't have those things. You know, it just, when people see little things like that, they think them what big things are wrong that they haven't kept up with that I maybe can't see.
What do you and your team do differently?
Well, we call it active listing versus passive listing. So I think the old school way of real estate sales was get the listing, sign the agreement, put the sign in the yard, and then hope somebody else, another member of the MLS, will come along and sell it. You hope you might sell it yourself, but just hope. So what we like to do differently is we like to work and partner with our clients and really get this home ready to market. If we price it right and we get the condition right, then it's going to sell quickly and for the highest price.
How soon should someone prepare their house? Is there a time frame before the listing begins?
Yeah, I would say about 6 months before you think you want to put the house up for sale, you should probably start interviewing realtors and brokers. And so you might want to just choose 3 different companies, and we recommend you look at and do a little research online and find somebody that is very focused in their job, not just doing it as a side gig, very focused, very creative, and proven, and see if you can find a lot of testimonials on them and maybe stats that show that they are really good at what they do.
Excellent. And all of that information is, as we well know, available on the internet, and we can find this information everywhere.
That's right.
Oh, great. Lynn, very interesting. Thank you for all your insights. Lynn, tell us, why does a house stay on the market for too long?
Because time kills a listing. So when a house is listed, there's 2 things on an axis that you have to align, and that is price compared to condition and location. And when those items match up, you're going to get showings and offers. But when one of those things is out of line, where the price is way too high for the condition and location, or the condition is way too poor for the price, then you're going to get very few showings, and you're certainly not going to get any offers. We don't want the listings to sit on the market either. It doesn't make any of us look good.
So in this strong market, if a house has been sitting too long, obviously we have possibly a condition issue, or we have a pricing issue. How does your team come in to fix and rectify that problem?
Well, first of all, we want to be proactive and not let that happen. So when someone hires us to market and list their home, then that's what we go to work on, the price and the condition. We can't change the location of a home, and of course, everyone's said for years, location, location, location. So that's a very, very important part of it. But the condition of the house, you absolutely can affect and improve, and you sure can affect the price. So somebody has to do a very, very good job at pricing your house, and of course, the way the market is today with appraisals, they really look at comparables. So we have to look at the comparable sales and make sure we price it right. When you overprice a house too much, then say you're 15% over market value, then you're only going to get 10% of the market that's going to view the home. If you're only 10% over market value, that will increase to about 30% of the buyers out there. And then if you're at market, 60% of the potential buyers out there will view your home, and you have a great chance of selling the home. If you're below market value, of course, you're going to get even more of the potential buyers out there to see the home.
So Lynn, how do you adjust a listing when it has been on the market too long and has become a stale listing?
Well, first of all, we hope that doesn't happen, and we've been proactive enough and priced it correctly, and we have our condition. We've staged the house, we've gotten everything, we've done a pre-inspection, we have it really dialed in and looking great. So you can prevent that. That's the best way to do it. But if we're worried about it and concerned up front that this could be hard to sell, or we're taking over a listing that's already been sitting on the market a long time, then we know we need to change some things. So proactively, we have to talk to the client and say, all right, we'll try this price, but maybe we're only going to try it for 30 days, and then we're going to adjust it. But we need to have a plan and adjust accordingly until you do get more showings. So even though a home appears to be worth what they have in it, they've spent that on it, there just may not be enough buyers out there that will spend that much on a home.
And this holds true, and I would say is in any price home. Low, medium, high, all of these factors must come together for a home to move and not sit as a stale listing.
Yes, it's price versus condition and location. Again, those two have to line up. So get your condition really great, get it in perfect shape as you can, very presentable, and then get your price right and be realistic. You've got to be realistic. Listen to your broker, but make sure you've got somebody that is very, very knowledgeable, and you have to do a lot of real estate deals to be good at it. It's tough if you're only doing a few deals a year to be really experienced at it, but you've got to hire somebody that does it a lot to know, what 200,000 looks like, what 400,000 looks like, that kind of thing.
Well, these are great tips for us all. Thank you for your insight,
You're
Lynn.
welcome.
Yeah, OFD, what does that mean?
Aussian Furniture Design. And
You mean you
Total
guys have everything? Furnishings, accessories, flooring?
That's what Total Home means.
Yes!
Your style at home begins at OFD Total Home in Pine Valley and Aussian Furniture in Aussian. If you're starting from scratch or just dressing things up, our large selection of furniture with hundreds of pieces of artwork and unique accessories are the perfect blends. OFD Total Home, now open in the Pine Valley Shopping Center.
The appraisal process is a very critical phase of the sales process of a property. And today joining us is Reecer Properties client John Ryan and appraiser Mark Swift. So we thought we'd talk about the experience that John recently went through in selling his home in Autumn Ridge. So how did that go, John, as far as getting the home sold first?
We had had our home on the market once previous to that, and it was for not quite a year, but not much happened. And so we met with our friend Lynn Reecer and her company, decided to give you an opportunity to try to sell the home, not in any way thinking that it would be something that happened quickly. Much to our pleasant surprise, on the very first day that the listing hit the internet, we came basically to a verbal agreement with the buyers of our home, and the contract was signed the following day.
So you then went through the process of going through inspection and then appraisal, and how did that go?
Very pleased with the process, the representation, the market analysis that you had done, and the purchasers of our property had a contingency saying that this was our agreed price so long as it appraised for that. The appraisal came in, and much to our disappointment, it was $50,000 less than the actual contract terms that we, the seller and the purchasers, had agreed to.
So I, recall you were very upset. It was a lot of work to get through. We did call in just to get another opinion. We did ask Mark Swift to take a look at it, but it doesn't really help you because you can't choose the appraiser, right? So Mark, tell us what the restrictions are now when you get a loan and the house is appraised.
In today's day and age, the lender actually has a list of appraisers, and in this case, yours didn't go through a lender; it was a cash deal. But the lender is the one that chooses, and it comes on a rotation, okay? And the lender has their own appraisers on their rotation, and it just every time an order comes in, it just follows the chain.
Okay, and so why do we see, do you think, so much discrepancy between different appraisals?
In theory, you can have 5 appraisers do an appraisal on the same property, and there should be 5 different values. Now, they should be within a few percentage points one way or the other. Mm-hmm. To be off that much, maybe you got one that wasn't as knowledgeable as the other appraiser, and we have a lot of that.
What can we do about this, and do you see any solutions?
Well, as a realtor, it's extremely important to pull sales in the area within a subdivision.
So what would you say to the problem, though, when it's a small neighborhood with maybe 25 homes in it, and one home there is going to be one in there that is the most expensive, and in this case, that was one of these cases, it was a neighborhood like that where it had a pool and it had, a lot of amenities. It was a newer home.
An appraisal that involves, an outbuilding or a pool or something unusual, I try to find at least one, preferably even 2, that have that similar feature. That alleviates the situation of making, very large adjustments for something like that.
Yeah,
so but you don't want to go, say you're in a $150,000 neighborhood, you don't want to go find a comp in a $300,000 neighborhood. That's where it becomes skewed.
Mm-hmm. Well, good discussion. We could probably talk about it another couple hours, but thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for having us.
And now we're going to talk about downsizing. Lynn, I know that you recently downsized. You had a beautiful home in Covington Lake Estates, your family home of 20 plus years, and then we're now neighbors in Covington Creek. What did you find to be the most challenging aspect of that move?
Just moving itself. So one thing that you realize is you've accumulated a lot of things over 20 some years. So you almost need to just discipline yourself to every year go through your house and clean out the closets and get rid of things that other people could be using. So, if you have things that you're just not using anymore that were your kids, and go ahead and donate them or give them away to friends or things. But it makes the job of moving after 20 years so daunting to try to go through that. The other thing is, I know that we wasted money on packing things up and storing them only to move them to our new house, and now I've had to go through it about 3 times to keep getting rid of. But I see other people do it all the time too.
So in this downsizing process, Do you find that some people are in need of possibly renting a storage unit until they can get their items edited down to fit into their new space and understand how they need to live in their new space?
That is a great idea, Richard, because sometimes, and I've done this before too, sometimes you're too hasty and get rid of some furniture pieces and then you wish you had them. So it's a great idea. So if you could just rent a small storage unit and then maybe keep a few pieces in there that you love that you're not sure about yet, but make a decision on them within, say, 6 months. You can do that.
Excellent. And I'm sure, as we all know, we have family, we have friends, and there's incredible resources to take on these extra things that we realize we no longer need in our new life.
You know, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel lighter, you know, just getting rid of things that you don't need anymore and taking them to a consignment shop or taking them to Goodwill.
Why do you think more people are downsizing? What is it that they're looking for?
I think probably the number one reason that empty nesters downsize is they realize they just have this big house that was full of kids before, and now, you know, they don't need all that space. And I think also after maybe living in a home for a long time, you're ready for a change. I would say just in our case, I mean, we loved our home, but it was almost kind of sad walking by all the bedrooms where the kids are gone and they're not going to be back living here anymore. But it was a family home and it's time for another family to live there. So we decided to go to a villa. We wanted to downsize the yard and the basement. We had 3 floors and I did not want a basement anymore. I just don't like to go down to basements. So those are the 2 things that I didn't want anymore. So we found a villa that had 2 floors, and in Fort Wayne, in the area, there are not that many villas. I mean, there is a real shortage of villas, but it is a great lifestyle when you are an empty nester, not to have to worry about the yard anymore and the outsides. There's a lot of movement downtown right now, a lot going on. So I find a lot more people are saying, hey, I might want to live in a villa closer to town or even in a condo in downtown Fort Wayne now. So some people
And there are
just wanna
some
change.
incredible options out there.
We have so many people that want to buy villas right now, and we can't seem to find enough of them. Most of them are like the one that my husband and I bought is very, very dated. So we had to go through a 6-month process of redoing the whole home. We got it for a great price, but then we had to remodel the whole thing.
But I have to admit, and as we're neighbors, there is a wonderful sense of community when you move into these areas of villas and condominiums, which is a plus in downsizing. Some people are somewhat lonely to leave a neighborhood where they have friends and families they've grown up with for 20 years. Mm-hmm. I can say in my experience, I created a whole new sense of community where I moved. I have great friends, I have great areas to walk in, and the beauty of it is that turnkey, and I can walk out and go. So Lynn, what do you think most people find difficult in downsizing into a smaller space?
Say you're going from a 4-bedroom home and you want to go to a 2-bedroom, then you need to think of ways you can multi-purpose rooms. For instance, if you buy a 3-bedroom condo or villa and you want to be able to have room for guests sometimes, but you know it's very rare, then make those rooms into something else you can really use, like an office, but put a Murphy bed on the side.
Oh, great. So someone can use a room as a den, an office space. It's also a bedroom for guests. So it's multi-purposing the space that they find.
Another example of that would be in the villa that my husband and I just bought. We took one room and made it his office, his TV room, and his exercise room. It's all in one room.
So repurposing what you have in a new space and adjusting your lifestyle to accommodate.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Great. Thank you, Lynn. This has been very insightful. We hope this has been helpful for you also as you get ready to downsize or are looking to sell your current home.
Joining me now is Dr. Craig McBride, who has been a Reecer Properties client both in Fort Wayne and up at the Lakes area, Lake Wawasee in particular. So what would you say would be one of the primary differences between buying or selling a lake home versus a residential home in Fort Wayne?
Well, the most obvious difference is the difference in price. The lake homes are much more expensive per the size of the home. The beautiful thing there is you don't need as big a home typically at the lake because you don't need so much closet space, you don't need as much garage space, you don't need as much lawn space. You're really just wanting that lake frontage and being at the lake.
Very true. Yeah, and that is how you basically value a lake property, is by, lake frontage. The land is usually much more valuable than the home. And there's a wide variety of lake homes. I mean, we have 400 lakes in northern Indiana, so we must have just thousands of lake homes when you add up all those lakes. One of the best things about living in northern Indiana, I think. So when you, after you looked for about 6 months around Lake Wawasee, what was it that caught your attention when you walked in the house that you bought, and you pretty much bought it on the spot after looking for 6 months?
Yeah, I think we'd looked for a long time, including getting online and looking, and my wife knew the style of home that she liked, and we walked into the home that you showed us, and everything was pretty much like what we'd dreamed about. It was that Cape Cod style that she liked. It had the more lake frontage. We had sold a home with a little bit less lake frontage. We were looking for a little more privacy and more lake frontage, and everything just seemed right. We walked in, the home had been updated, so it wasn't going to take a whole bunch of
Do you think that was a
bunch
big
of work.
factor?
That was a really big factor. And it was priced right. I think
That's true.
the couple that we bought the home from, who had updated it, I think they thought they were going to be using it a lot because they have children and grandchildren. They're from the north side of Indianapolis, and they thought they would be using it pretty much every weekend through the summer months. And they had been there for, I think, 20 years, probably. So they had updated the home with that in mind. Very nice secondary bedrooms for the kids. And what they found was that their kids and their grandkids were coming up about twice a year instead of every weekend. And it was largely, from what they told us, largely due to travel sports. So instead of the kids coming up, they were driving down to Indianapolis.
Yes, that's kind of, unfortunately, that's had a big effect on the market, the travel sports. I met somebody recently that was very involved in the RV sales, and they said there's so many families now that are buying RVs with washer and dryer in them, and they just drive every weekend from sporting event to sporting event. So that's really had a big impact on the lake, and I think it's a shame, see if you agree, but I think that the time at the lake, whether or not you have a lake home, I mean, when I grew up in Ohio, we had a little 16-foot boat, and we just drove our boat on a trailer and went to different lakes on the weekends, and it was some of the best memories of my whole childhood because you have that unstructured time together.
Yeah, I agree. Anytime you can be at the lake for us is wonderful. And I guess fortunately for us, our kids are older than that now, and so we don't have that issue. So for us, it's more, we have busy jobs. We don't have the time to be gone on vacations a lot. So this is like a little mini vacation. We even go up in the wintertime.
You're right.
And,
45, 50 minutes away is the best part.
Exactly, 45, 50 minutes away, and it feels like it's the other side of the country, yeah.
Well, thank you for being such a great client of ours. We've loved working with you and Melanie.
Well, you've been terrific.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Ossian Furniture.
Magnolia Home by Joanna Gaines is coming to the area in a big way. Ossian Furniture and OFD Total Home are celebrating the grand opening of this new space in Ossian. If you love the look, come and see all that Magnolia Home has to offer. Ossian Furniture and OFD Total Home, we have your style at home.
5 minutes south of 469 on Highway 1. Ossian Furniture.
So today we have with us Nick Henry, co-owner of Housemaster Home Inspections, and also Corey Allen from Reecer Properties, our transaction coordinator and vice president of client service. I personally like to recommend a pre-inspection. I know some people debate about that. So what do you think about the process of getting a pre-inspection?
The people that really, I think, get more benefit out of it are the people that either want to sell their house for a premium or sell their house faster, because they can take that information and it's like staging a house in that.
And who doesn't want to sell their home as fast as can be? By getting a pre-inspection, which is typically about $300, would you say? Depends on the size of the home.
Depends on the size of the home and the
$350,
age, yeah.
something like that. And you'll get a full report on the house. And we've used that with a lot of clients, and it makes them feel more confident, going into the process of marketing the home. Corey, can you think of some instances where we've had clients where after the fact, when they bought a home and closed, they found a problem that wasn't detected in the inspection?
And one was just a couple of months ago where we had a buyer that we represented, bought a house, moved in, and then went to open some of the windows, and the windows wouldn't open the way they should have opened. And as much time as an inspector spends at the home, it's hard to catch everything. So the recourse would be, the first thing I would do is find out if the seller was aware of this. I'd go back to the inspection report, see if the inspector made any mention of it. And at that point, we would then reach out to Nick or whoever the inspector was for the property and try to get some more information about what exactly happened.
Right. We find that a lot of issues really aren't as important as they may seem. We had one gal move in, and I got a call a couple weeks later, there's water on my floor. First thing we're thinking is piping, of course. So I went out, I looked, we couldn't figure it out. We found out over time the refrigerator was actually thawing and spilling water on the floor. So, first thing you think, and this is a common human attribute, anything you see in a house you think is major. Well, when we research it, it may not be. I know on roofs, you'll see a water stain on the ceiling. First thing you think is, my roof is leaking. Well, it may just be where a vent pipe comes through and there's a crack. It's a $20 fix. But I think human nature, you think it's a lot bigger. So let us come out, take a look, and then we make the next step from there. And we do that as a team. So.
And are inspectors typically insured, so that if there is something that they missed, are they insured?
We are. We're required by the state to have a level of insurance, both errors and omission and general liability. And every inspection company in town should have that certificate for you if you need to see it.
So tell me, Nick, how long do one of your inspections typically take? I know it varies on the size of the home.
The actual inspection will usually take 2 or 3 hours. And then we encourage our buyers to be there, if nothing else, at the end, because it's important for us to sit down with them after we are done with the physical inspection and go through every element of that house and help educate them about what we found, what implications there are, and some recommendations for what they can do. But a lot of them are maintenance issues. We also want to take that person around and show them how to shut the water off, how to change their furnace filter, help educate them, because this is going to be the biggest investment they'll probably make in their life. And if we can help them and the real estate agent understand that house, they can help decide, okay, what's the best way to move forward? And that's where you guys step in after that. We're one small part of the process, but every buyer is allowed to be at that inspection as long as possible. But we really prefer, if they can, the last hour, if they can make that full hour, and we'll walk them through it. So, and it's not a pass-fail or a good-bad. Every house has issues. My house has issues, and I'm an inspector. It's just put in perspective and say, here's what you have.
Very good. That's great information for consumers.